The sterile white walls of the Galactic Council interrogation facility hummed with the constant vibration of air processes. The room was cold and unwelcoming, designed to make prisoners feel small and afraid. But the creature sitting in the reinforced metal chair did not look afraid anymore. She looked broken. Kixavera had once been a proud warrior of the Thekri Empire. Her people were known across the galaxy as fierce fighters with their thick shell-like skin and for powerful arms. But now, one of those arms was gone, replaced by a crude mechanical substitute that sparked occasionally when she moved. Deep scars covered her dark green carapace, telling stories of battles that had gone very wrong. Across the cold metal table sat Investigator Dolmik. His pale blue skin seemed to glow under the harsh lights, and his large black eyes never blinked. As he studied the damaged warrior, he had interrogated thousands of prisoners over his long career, but none had arrived in such poor condition while claiming to be a survivor rather than a defeated enemy. "You are Kixavera of the Thekri Third Battle Fleet," Dolmik said in his flat, official voice. The translator device on the table converted his words into the clicking, buzzing language of the Thekri. "I was," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Her mandibles clicked nervously as she spoke, according to our records. "You are the only survivor of 3 separate encounters with the species known as humans. The Council requires your full testimony about these encounters." Kixavera's compound eyes flickered, and something that might have been fear crossed her scarred face. She looked down at her mechanical arm, flexing the crude fingers slowly. "You do not understand what you are asking of me," she said finally. "Those creatures, they are not what they appear to be." Dolmik activated the recording device between them. A small red light began to blink, indicating that everything said in the room would now be preserved for the Council archives. The High Council needs to understand these humans before they spread further into our territory, he continued. "Intelligence reports suggest they are a primitive species with limited technology and weak physical capabilities. Yet somehow, you and your forces have suffered significant casualties in every encounter." "Primitive?" Kixavera repeated the word like it tasted bitter. "We thought the same thing." She was quiet for a long moment, staring at the metal table. When she spoke again, her voice was different. It carried the weight of someone who had seen things that would haunt her forever. "We were so confident," she said. "The Thekri have conquered 47 star systems. We have defeated species with advanced technology, powerful weapons, and strong military traditions. We expected the humans to be just another easy victory." Dolmik made notes on his data pad, but he kept his eyes on the broken warrior. In all his years of interrogations, he had never seen a Thekri look so defeated. Their species was known for their pride and arrogance, even in defeat. But this one seemed genuinely traumatized. "Tell me about the first encounter," he commanded. Kixavera's remaining natural arms began to tremble slightly. "The mining station, we called it Operation Swift Harvest. Intelligence said there were fewer than 200 humans extracting valuable minerals from a small planet. No military presence, no advanced weapons, no defensive fortifications. Standard subjugation protocol then." Dolmik noted, "Yes, overwhelming force, superior technology, quick surrender. We had done it hundreds of times before." Her mandibles clicked faster now, a sign of growing agitation. "We expected them to give up the moment they saw our ships. Most species do, but they did not surrender. No, the word came out as barely more than a breath. They did something else entirely. Something we had never encountered before." Dolmik leaned forward slightly. "This was the information the Council needed." "What did they do?" "They fought." Kixavera looked up at him, her compound eyes reflecting the harsh light. But not like any species we had ever faced. Not like soldiers or warriors or even desperate animals they fought like. Like they had something precious to protect. Surely they were simply defending their territory and resources. No, you do not understand. Kixavera's voice grew stronger, more urgent. They were not fighting for a territory or resources or even their own lives. They were fighting for each other. Every single one of them was willing to die to protect beings they had never even met. The mechanical arm made a whirring sound as she clenched it into a fist. We studied their communications during the battle. They kept saying names. Not just the names of humans at their own station, but the names of humans on other worlds. In other systems, they were fighting for creatures they would never see, never know, never benefit from protecting. Dulmic frowned. This did not match any known behavioral patterns in his extensive database of species psychology. Perhaps you misunderstood their communications, he suggested. I did not misunderstand anything, Kixver snapped, showing the first flash of her old warrior spirit. I watched a human miner hold an entire corridor for 6 hours with nothing but industrial equipment and mining explosives. When we finally cornered him, he smiled at us and said the name Jihoon before detonating charges that killed himself and 6 of my best warriors. She paused, her breathing becoming labored. Later, we learned that Jihoon was a child on a human colony 3 systems away. The miner had never met this child, would never meet this child. But he died saying his name like it was the most important thing in the universe. The room fell silent except for the humming of the air processors. Dolmik stared at his notes, trying to process what he was hearing. Begin with the mining station. He said finally, "Tell me everything." Kixavera stared at the metal table for a long moment before she began to speak. Her mechanical arm twitched as painful memories flooded back. The mining station orbited a small planet the humans called Kepler-44 to be. She said slowly, intelligence reports made it sound like an easy target. Just miners and their families, digging for rare metals to sell to traders. No weapons, no defenses, no military training. Investigator Dolmik watched as the scarred warrior's compound eyes seemed to look right through him, seeing something far away and terrible. We approached with 3 battle cruisers and 40 dropships. Standard overwhelming force tactics. The humans should have seen our ships and immediately sent surrender signals. That is what every other species does when they realize they cannot win. But they did not surrender. Dolmik stated, no. Instead, they sent us a message. Kixavera's mandibles clicked rapidly. A young human female appeared on our communication screen. She had dark hair and was wearing dirty work clothes. She looked so small and harmless. What did she say? She said her name was So Young, and she was the station coordinator. She asked if we needed help with navigation or if our ships were damaged. She offered to send repair crews to assist us. Kixavera's voice became bitter. Even when our ships were clearly armed for war, she thought we might need help. Dolmik made notes on his data pad. Unusual. But perhaps they were simply naive about military threats. That is what we thought too. So we transmitted standard surrender demands. Give up the station. Submit to the Kree authority. Prepare for relocation. Simple terms that most species accept to avoid bloodshed. And their response. Kixavera was quiet for several seconds. So Young listened to our demands very carefully. Then she said something I will never forget. She said, I need to ask my family first. She called 200 strangers her family. The broken warrior shifted in her chair, the mechanical arm making small whirring sounds. 20 minutes later, she came back on the communication channel. She said her family had discussed our offer and decided they would rather stay where they were. She thanked us for the opportunity, but politely declined our generous terms. They refused surrender, politely refused, like we had offered to sell them something they did not want. Kixaver's voice cracked slightly. So we began the assault. Standard procedure. Target their power generators. Disable their communications. Land troops to secure the facility. Should have taken 2 hours at most. Dolmec leaned forward. This was where the reports became confusing. But the assault lasted 17 standard days. 17 days of hell, Kixavero whispered. The moment our first dropships entered the atmosphere, everything went wrong. The humans had turned their entire mining operation into a weapon. Explain. They used mining charges as artillery. All processing equipment became projectile launchers. Service tunnels became sniper positions. They knew every inch of that station. And they used that knowledge to turn our superior numbers against us. Kixaver's remaining natural arms began to shake. But the worst part was not their tactics. It was their attitude. They fought like each battle was the most important thing that had ever happened. A miner named Time-In held Corridor 7 for 18 hours using nothing but mining explosives and metal scraps. When we finally surrounded him, he was badly wounded and out of ammunition. Any rational being would have surrendered, but he did not. He smiled at us, actually smiled. Then he activated a mining charge that brought down half the corridor ceiling. He killed himself and 6 of my warriors, and his last words were, "Tell Jinwoo I kept my promise." Dolmec looked puzzled. Who was Jinwoo? A child, 8 years old. Lives on a human colony 5 systems away. Time-In had never met this child, would never meet this child. But somehow, dying to protect strangers was keeping a promise to him. The investigator struggled to understand this logic. Perhaps it was some kind of religious belief. "No, you still do not understand." Kixaver's voice grew more urgent. This was not religion or politics or territory. This was something deeper, something built into what they are. She continued to recount. So Young, the coordinator, fought for 3 days with broken ribs and a punctured lung. She could barely breathe, but she kept organizing the defense, making sure everyone had food and ammunition and medical supplies. When we finally cornered her in the command center, she was dying from internal bleeding. But she was still talking on the radio, giving encouragement to other humans, telling them they were brave, telling them she was proud of them. Did she provide any useful intelligence before she died? She did not die, Kixaver said. Quietly. We captured her alive. Barely. She spent her last conscious moments not begging for mercy or trying to bargain for her life. Instead, she asked us to please tell her family that she loved them, her biological family. All of them, every human on the station, every human in their territory, every human she had never met. She called them all family. And she meant it. Kixaver's mechanical arm clenched into a fist. The last human to fall was a maintenance worker named Jun-Ho. He held the reactor room for 6 hours using nothing but repair tools and industrial acid. When we finally brought him down, he had killed 12 more of my warriors as he lay dying. He was not angry or afraid. He was proud that he had given the others more time to fight. More time to send messages to other human colonies. More time to warn their family. By the time we secured the station, we had lost 400 warriors to a group of miners and technicians. Miners and technicians who fought like every life in the galaxy depended on their courage. Dolmec stared at his notes, trying to process the implications. This level of self-sacrifice seems evolutionarily counterproductive. That is what we thought, Kixaver replied. We were wrong about everything. Kixaver's compound eyes grew distant as she prepared to relive the second nightmare. Her mechanical arm sparked once, then went still. 3 months after the mining station, my superiors decided we needed to study humans more carefully. She began. They wanted to understand how such weak creatures could cause so much damage. So, when our scouts detected a human cargo ship traveling alone through our territory, we saw it as a perfect opportunity. Investigator Dolnik adjusted his data pad. A single merchant vessel should have been an easy capture. That is exactly what we thought. Kixavera's mandibles clicked softly. The ship was called the Byzantine. Large, slow, and apparently carrying nothing but trade goods between human colonies. Our sensors showed 28 life forms aboard. No weapon signatures. No military escorts. No distress beacons. Standard. Piracy operation then. We approached with two fast attack ships and a boarding cruiser. 40 of my best raiders, all veterans of successful captures. The human ship did not try to run or fight. It just sat there in space, waiting for us. Kixavera paused, her breathing becoming slightly labored, when we sent the surrender demand. A human female answered our call. She appeared on the communication screen with a pleasant smile and calm voice. What did she say? Her name was Hyjin, and she was the ship's communication officer. She listened to our demands very carefully, nodding like she was taking notes. Then she asked if our ships needed any assistance with navigation or repairs. She said their crew included skilled engineers who would be happy to help. Dalmik frowned, even while being threatened with capture. Even then, she seemed genuinely concerned that we might be lost or in trouble. When we explained that we were pirates and intended to take their ship, she looked confused. She asked if we were sure we had contacted the right vessel. The broken warrior's voice grew quieter. Finally, she said she would need to discuss our request with her crew and asked if we could wait a few minutes. She was so polite about it, like we had asked to borrow something instead of demanding surrender. And then, 20 minutes later, she came back on the screen, still smiling, still calm. She said her crew had talked it over and decided they would prefer to continue their journey as planned. She thanked us for our interest, but said they would have to decline our offer. Kixavera's mechanical arm began to twitch. She declined our offer to be captured, like it was a business proposal she had considered and rejected. So you boarded by force. We tried to. Our boarding pods attached to their hull successfully. Standard breach procedures. My raiders cut through the airlocks and entered the ship, expecting to find frightened merchants hiding in their quarters. But they were not hiding. No, they were waiting for us. Kixavera's voice cracked slightly the moment we stepped aboard. We realized these were not ordinary merchants. Every single human on that ship moved like a trained fighter. Military personnel disguised as civilians. No, that is what made it so terrifying. They really were merchants and engineers and cooks and mechanics. But they fought like they had been preparing for this moment their entire lives. Kixaver stared at the wall as if seeing through it. The cook, a male named Dongwu, had turned the food preparation area into a fortress. He was using kitchen equipment as weapons, throwing boiling liquids and sharp utensils with deadly accuracy. When we cornered him, he activated some kind of food processing machine that launched metal fragments like bullets. Improvised weapons are not uncommon in desperate situations. But this was not desperation. This was expertise, an engineer named Mina had rewired the ship's artificial gravity system. She could make the floors and walls become weapons, crushing my warriors against the ceiling or throwing them into bulkheads with bone-breaking force. The investigator made notes, but his expression showed disbelief. You are describing impossible technical knowledge. I am describing humans. Kixaver replied firmly. They do not just use technology. They become one with it. Mina had probably never seen their Kree armor before, But within minutes she figured out how to use her own ship's systems to crush it. What happened next? They fought in the dark. When we cut their power, they moved through their ship like it was part of their own bodies. They knew every passage, every access panel, every hiding spot. But more than that, they seemed to know what each other was thinking. Kixavera's remaining natural arms began to shake. I watched them coordinate attacks without speaking, without signals, without any apparent communication. A young male named Jinwu would move to protect a female named Sorol before she even knew she was in danger. They fought like a single organism with multiple bodies. Telepathic communication, perhaps. No, something else, something deeper. Kixavera's voice became a whisper. They cared about each other so much that protecting their crewmates became more important than their own survival. For example, a maintenance worker named Hyansu threw himself in front of my plasma rifle to shield an injured engineer. He died instantly. But his sacrifice gave the engineer time to activate some kind of distress beacon as he died. Hyansu was not screaming, in pain or fear. He was telling the engineer that he was proud of her work. Kixavera's compound eyes began to glisten. By the time we retreated to our ships, 17 of my raiders were dead. The humans had lost only 4 crew members, but they mourned those for like they had lost family. Survivors often form strong bonds. No, you still do not understand. They were not survivors forming bonds. They were family protecting family. Every human treated every other human like they were the most important thing in existence. The final message they sent as we fled was not a threat or a curse. Hyjin appeared on the screen one more time, tears streaming down her face. She said she was sorry we had chosen violence, and she hoped we would find whatever we were looking for without hurting anyone else. Dulmik stared at his notes. She apologized to you. She was genuinely sad that we had forced them to kill my raiders. Even after we had tried to capture and rob them, she felt sorry for us. Kixavera's voice broke completely. That was when I first understood that we were not fighting individuals. We were fighting something that refused to let any of its parts be harmed. Kixavera's mechanical arm began to spark more frequently as she prepared to tell the final story. Her compound eyes darted round the room like she was looking for threats that were not there. The third encounter was different, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. By then, the Dekri High Command wanted to understand these humans better. Our science division requested live specimens for study. Investigator Dulmik looked up from his notes. Capture for research purposes is standard procedure for unknown species. Yes. So, when we detected a small human research vessel in neutral space, it seemed like the perfect opportunity. The ship had only 5 crew members conducting some kind of scientific survey. No weapons, no escort ships, no backup. Kixavera's breathing became more labored. The capture was easy. Too easy. We used paralysis beams to disable them without causing permanent damage. 5 humans, 2 males named Kitai and Wujin. 3 females called Nari, Yijin, and Sunni, standard. Specimens for a biological analysis. That is what we thought. We brought them to Research Station Alpha 7 for study. The station was heavily defended, far from any human territory. Completely secure. We had 300 scientists and security personnel on board. The broken warrior paused for a long moment, staring at her mechanical arm. The humans were unconscious for the first 2 days while our scientists ran preliminary scans. Harmless tests, nothing that would cause permanent injury. We are not monsters. What changed? On the 3rd day, our long-range sensors detected 3 human ships approaching the station. Not military vessels, not rescue ships, just ordinary civilian. craft that had been modified with extra engines and weapons. Dulmik frowned. How did they locate your research station? We never found out. Our station was hidden in an asteroid field, completely shielded from detection. But somehow, these humans knew exactly where to find their people. Kixavera's mandibles clicked rapidly. We monitored their communications as they approached. The leader was a female named Yunji. She kept repeating the names of the captured humans over and over. Kitai, Wujin, Nari, Yijin, Sanmi, like a prayer or a promise. Did they attempt to negotiate? No negotiations, no demands. No threats. Yunji simply announced that they were coming to take their people home. When we refused and warned them to leave, she said something I will never forget. What did she say? She said, "We are sorry you chose to stand in our way." Not angry, not threatening, just sad, like she was genuinely sorry for what was about to happen to us. Kixavera's remaining natural arms began to tremble. The first ship was piloted by an older male named Hanwu. Instead of trying to fight our defenses, he flew his ship directly into our shield generators, used his own vessel as a guided missile suicide attack. Before his ship exploded, he transmitted all of our shield frequencies and defensive positions to the other two ships. He sacrificed himself to give the others the information they needed to rescue the captives. The investigator made notes, but his expression showed confusion. This level of self-sacrifice seems irrational. That is what we thought. But as his ship was dying, Hyanwu was not screaming or afraid. Our sensors picked up his final transmission. He was singing some kind of human song about going home. Kixavera's voice grew stronger, more urgent. The other two ships used the information he had given them to penetrate our defenses. They docked with the station and began boarding operations. We expected desperate fighters trying to rescue their friends. But they were something else. They were something we had never encountered before. They moved through our station like they owned it. A young engineer named Boram somehow turned our own security systems against us. She made our automated defenses target their crew personnel while ignoring human life. Science, impossible. Our security systems have built-in species recognition. She reprogrammed them in real time. While fighting for her life, while dotting plasma fire, she was rewriting computer code that had taken our best engineers years to perfect, and she did it in minutes. Kixavera's mechanical arm clenched into a fist. But the most terrifying thing was their efficiency. They were not angry or cruel. They treated us like obstacles to be overcome as quickly as possible. Nothing personal, just completely focused on getting their people back. No interrogation of prisoners. No demands for information. When they captured their crew personnel, they were almost gentle about it. They disabled our weapons, applied medical aid to the wounded, and moved on, like they were cleaning house rather than fighting a war. The entire rescue operation took less than 2 hours. They located the 5 captives, disabled our security systems, neutralized 300 station personnel, and escaped, all without losing a single human life. Dulmik looked skeptical. You are describing tactical perfection that exceeds even our most elite military units. I am describing humans who had something precious to protect. Kixaver replied. Later, we learned that most of the rescue team had never worked together before. They were just humans who heard that other humans needed help. Civilians, a teacher, a mechanic, a doctor, a farmer. Ordinary people who became extraordinary when their family was threatened. Because that is what they were, family. Not related by blood or marriage or even friendship. Family because they were human. Kixavera's voice dropped to a whisper. As they left, Yunji sent one final message to our station. She thanked us for taking good care of the captives and said she hoped we would not try this. Again, she was not threatening us. She was genuinely hoping we would make better choices in the future. Even after attacking your station, she was concerned about your welfare. She was sad that we had forced them to hurt us, even though we had kidnapped their people for experiments. She felt sorry for us. The broken warrior's compound eyes glistened. That was when I finally understood what we were dealing with. These were not just another species. They were something that refused to accept that any member of their family could be lost or harmed. And your superior's response, they ordered more attacks. They could not believe that such primitive creatures could defeat their Kree forces. They thought I was lying or incompetent. Kixavera's voice turned bitter. They learned the truth soon enough. Investigator Dolmik set down his stylus and stared across the metal table at the broken warrior. The silence in the interrogation room was heavy, filled only by the humming of air processors and the occasional spark from Kixavera's mechanical alarm. These accounts are difficult to believe, he said finally. You are describing tactical abilities that exceed our most advanced military analysis. Kixavera's compound eyes focused on him with sudden intensity. You are making the same mistake my commandos made. You are trying to understand humans through normal military thinking. That is why you will fail just like we did. Explain, humans. Do not fight like any species we have ever encountered. They do not fight for territory or resources or political power. They fight like parents protecting children, like siblings defending family. Her mandibles click slowly. Every human seems to carry the willingness to die for any other human, even complete strangers. Dolmik made notes on his data pad. Extreme altruism is known in some species, but usually limited to close genetic relatives. No. You still do not understand. Kixavera leaned forward, her mechanical arm whirring softly. These creatures treat every member of their species like immediate family. A human on one side of the galaxy will sacrifice everything to help a human on the other side, even if they have never met. That seems evolutionarily impossible. And yet they exist, and they are spreading through space faster than our intelligence can track them. Kixavera's voice grew more urgent. Do you know what they call themselves when they talk about their entire species, humans? Presumably, no. They call themselves people. All of them, every human that has ever lived or ever will live. They consider to be people. They're people. Not citizens of the same government or members of the same tribe. They're people. Dolmik frowned. Surely they have conflicts among themselves. All species do. Of course they argue and disagree. But when threatened by outsiders, those differences disappear instantly. I have seen human enemies become allies the moment a third party threatened any human anywhere. Kixavera's remaining natural arms began to gesture as she spoke. Their apparent physical weakness is camouflage. Yes, they are smaller and softer than most warrior species, but beneath that fragile exterior is something that has been shaped by millions of years of refusing to give up. What do you mean? Look at their history. Every other species we have studied shows periods of stability. Times when they developed advanced technology and peaceful societies. Humans have never had true peace. They have been fighting and struggling and adapting for their entire evolutionary development, fighting each other, fighting everything. Hostile planets, dangerous animals, natural disasters, diseases, even their own limitations. They never had the luxury of becoming comfortable or complacent. Every generation had to be stronger and smarter and more adaptable than the last, or they died. Kixavera's voice grew stronger, more passionate. But the most important thing they learned was that they could only survive by working together, not just with their own tribe or nation, but with any human who needed help. Dolmik activated his communication console. "I need to brief the High Council immediately." "Brief them on this," Kixaver said, standing slowly. Her mechanical arm sparked as she moved. "The Vekri Empire has conquered 47 star systems using superior technology and overwhelming force. We have defeated species with advanced weapons, powerful military traditions, and strong defensive capabilities, and yet humans have consistently defeated your forces. Because they do not fight like a military force, they fight like a single organism that happens to exist in billions of separate bodies. Every human carries the knowledge that losing any single human diminishes the entire species." Kixavera moved toward the door, then stopped and turned back. "Do you know what the most disturbing part of all my encounters has been? Tell me." "The humans do not seem to realize how terrifying they are. They think they are weak and fragile and ordinary. They have no idea that they represent something the galaxy has never seen before, a species that refuses to accept defeat as a possibility." "What do you mean? Every other species has limits. Points where they will surrender rather than face total destruction. Humans do not seem to have those limits. They will keep fighting and adapting and finding new ways to survive no matter what is thrown at them." Dolmik felt a chill run through his pale blue skin. "You believe they pose a threat to galactic stability. I believe they pose a threat to every assumption we have made about how intelligent species behave." Kixavera's compound eyes reflected the harsh light. "They are not coming as conquerors trying to build an empire. They are simply spreading through space the way they always have, as a family looking out for each other. And that is dangerous. That is the most dangerous thing of all. Conquerors can be negotiated with, reasoned with, sometimes even defeated. But how do you fight a species that considers every battle to be about protecting their children?" Kixavera reached the door and paused one final time. "The humans are not trying to destroy the galaxy. They are just trying to make sure their people can live safely wherever they choose to go. But they will fight anything and anyone who tries to stop them. Your recommendation: leave them alone. Do not threaten them. Do not capture them. Do not try to control them, because if you make them feel that their family is in danger, they will become something that no military force in the galaxy can defeat." The door sealed behind the broken warrior, leaving Dolmik alone with his notes and a growing sense of dread. He looked at his stellar charts showing human settlements scattered across dozens of systems, growing larger and more numerous each year. For the first time in his long career serving the Galactic Council, he wondered if they were prepared for what was coming. The humans were not invading. They were simply living their lives and protecting each other. And somehow, that seemed far more dangerous than any army.